Have you ever stopped to wonder about the true name of God? I'm not talking about titles like Lord or Elohim, but the actual name God used to identify himself. What if I told you this name was so powerful, so sacred, that it was hidden from humanity for centuries? Why? Because speaking it aloud was considered too holy and dangerous. Today, we delve into the mystery of God's forbidden name, uncovering why it was concealed for so long, exploring its meaning in the Bible, and revealing what it means for us today. Are you ready to discover the truth behind the most powerful name that exists? Before we dive into the sacred name of God, let's take a step back and ask, why do we even call him God? Where does this title come from? The term God itself is not a name, it's a title. It comes from the Old English word God, which was used to describe any deity or divine being. This term has roots in the Proto-Germanic guan and ultimately traces back to the Proto-Indo-European word gom, meaning that which is invoked or worshipped. So, the word God is more about recognizing divinity than identifying a specific being. In the Bible, God is not his name, it's a descriptor that acknowledges him as the supreme being, the creator and ruler of all things. In the Old Testament, the Hebrew word Elohim is frequently used, which translates as God or gods. Elohim is a plural term, but is used in singular form to reflect the majesty and complexity of God. Another word used is Adoni, meaning Lord, which conveys authority and reverence. However, as we will soon see, God has a personal name, one so sacred that it was not even spoken aloud for centuries. So, why do we use the word God today? As Christianity spread throughout Europe, translators adopted local languages, and God became the common title for the Creator. It is important to note that God is not exclusive to the Christian faith. It is a term used in various religions to describe divine beings. However, in Christian tradition, it refers to the one true Creator. Now that we've explored the title God, let's uncover the deeper mystery, his true name. The Bible doesn't just refer to God as God or Lord, but reveals a personal name, one so sacred that it is shrouded in mystery and reverence. The first time God's personal name is explicitly revealed in the Bible is in Exodus 3:14-15, during Moses' encounter with the burning bush. When Moses asked God, "What is your name? What should I tell the Israelites?" God responded, "I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you." In Hebrew, this name is written as YHWH, also known as the Tetragrammaton, which means 4 letters. It is translated as I am, or I am the one who exists. This is not just a name, it is a declaration of eternal existence, a reminder that God transcends time, space, and even creation itself. So why don't we call the Creator Yahweh? The truth is, in the original culture of the ancient Israelites, the name YHWH, known as the Tetragrammaton, was not just a name. It was considered the very essence of God's identity and power. Saying it aloud was believed to dishonor God by misusing his sacred name, something strictly prohibited in the 10 Commandments. "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name." Exodus 27. This was not just about casual usage, but ensuring that God's name was treated with the utmost reverence. For the original Israelites, saying his name aloud risked profaning something infinitely holy. Instead of pronouncing YHWH, they substituted it with titles like Adoni, Lord, or Elohim, God. These titles still conveyed reverence but avoided speaking the sacred name directly. There was also the fear that misusing the name would bring severe consequences, as seen in Leviticus 24:16, which says, "Anyone who blasphemes the name of the Lord is to be put to death. The entire assembly must stone them." whether foreigner or native born, when they blaspheme the name, they are to be put to death. This fear solidified the tradition of keeping the name unspoken, ensuring it was preserved with honor. Did you know that ancient Jewish scribes went to great lengths to prevent people from accidentally speaking God's sacred name aloud? When you read the Hebrew Bible, you'll notice they used a clever visual device to remind readers to say Adon instead of Yahweh. Here's how they did it. God's divine name consists of 4 Hebrew consonants corresponding to the English letters YHWH. But instead of writing it clearly, they took the vowels from the word Adoni, Lord, and combined them with the consonants YHWH to create a hybrid word, something like Yahoo. But here's the interesting part. No one in ancient Israel actually said Yahoo. It wasn't a real word. It was merely a visual reminder to say Adon. It's like leaving sticky notes on your fridge. Imagine you have a note that says drink water, but it's not the water itself. It's just there to remind you to stay hydrated. That's what the scribes did with Yahweh. It wasn't meant to be pronounced, just a reminder to say Adon. Later, Christian scribes misunderstood that Yahweh was just a marker, so they began to say it aloud and even wrote it in their texts. Over time, this led to the creation of the word Jehovah, which eventually made its way into English and is still used by many people today. Sometimes biblical authors use Lord to refer to God, as in phrases like Lord of all the earth or Lord of lords. But behind all these words, Jehovah, Lord Adon, is the original divine name of the God of Israel, YHWH. This name points to the one who was, who is, and who will be forever. It's quite fascinating, right? It shows how deeply sacred and significant God's name has been throughout history. The name Yahweh carries immense power and significance in the Bible. It is the name before which angels tremble, demons flee, and mountains shake. In Psalm 9:10, we see the importance of knowing His name. Those who know your name trust in you, for you, Lord, have never forsaken those who seek you. Even in apocryphal texts like the Book of Enoch, God's name is described as so sacred that even the highest angels dare not speak it casually. It is seen as the supreme expression of God's authority and glory. Even in the Testament of Levi 4:2, Levi sees the heavens open and God's throne. He hears the angels singing, describing the power of God's name, crying out to the Most High, whose power no one can resist, and whose name no one can pronounce without trembling. Another example of this can be found in 1 Enoch 14:18-21, where Enoch describes a vision of God's throne surrounded by radiant and burning beings. Even the highest angels, the cherubim and seraphim who ministered directly to God, are described as awed by His presence and authority. The great glory that was upon Him shone brighter than the sun and was whiter than snow. None of the angels could enter nor see His face because of His magnificence and glory, and no human being could behold Him. Now let's talk about something incredible. The moment when God's sacred name was revealed to humanity in a new way. In the New Testament, everything changes. The name of Jesus, or Yeshua in Hebrew, carries a profound meaning. Yahweh is salvation. Through Jesus, God's sacred name is not only spoken, but lived. Jesus embodied God's mission to save humanity, and His own name reflected this divine purpose. In John 17:6, Jesus says something remarkable in His prayer. I have revealed your name to the men you gave me out of the world. They were yours. You gave them to me, and they have obeyed your word. This wasn't just about saying God's name aloud. Jesus was showing us who God is through His actions, His teachings, and ultimately His sacrifice. He wasn't just speaking the name, He was living it. By coming to earth as God in the flesh, Jesus bridged the gap between humanity and the holiness of God's presence. Yahweh, who once was too sacred to be spoken, was now revealed in a way that everyone could understand through Jesus. It was no longer hidden, but became part of his mission to save, heal, and restore the relationship between God and humanity. Calling on God's name is not about an empty tradition or ritual. It's about invoking a name that carries the authority of heaven itself. When we say Yeshua, Yahweh, we are calling on the one who saves, who heals, and who brings peace. It's a reminder that we are not alone in our struggles. God himself is ready to intervene on our behalf. Here's what we must remember. God's name is not just a word. It is everything he is. It is a reflection of his essence, his promises, and his incomparable power. Understanding the holiness of his name is not just about reverence, but about connection. It's recognizing that when we call on his name, we are calling on the creator of the universe, the one who brings salvation, protection, and unwavering hope. Every time you say his name, you're not just speaking, you're declaring his authority over your life and every situation you face. Let this truth deepen your faith and remind you that the God we serve is both personal and powerful. So the next time you pray, invoke his name with confidence. You are not alone. You are speaking to the one who listens, the one who saves, and the one who will always keep his promises. I hope you've learned something new. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.